Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and hello everyone. Welcome to the WOLF1E Podcast. It's the first edition of the WOLF1E Podcast. I'm a host, I'm WOLF1E. Welcome everyone. We are here today to talk about standing predictions for the new 2026 F1 season. Boy, am I excited. I don't know about you. So just going to run through what we're going to be doing today, okay? So the main idea is basically that we're going to try and see and predict where people will stack, in the standings in this F1 season. This is the first year of the new regulation as well. So there's a lot to uncover because we're basically going in blind. There was the shakedown last week about how many all teams went except for Williams, I think, but the runnings were exactly the same for every team. So basically Mercedes and Ferrari run a lot of laps, but some of their teams didn't run as many. I'm thinking about Aston Martin, of course Williams wasn't there, and the general idea behind that is that we kind of an idea of who's doing kind of okay and who might be struggling. But let me tell you this is not a given. This is not a given at all. We have lots of surprise to come in this new 2026 season. So first what I'm going to do is that I'm going to very briefly recap the 25 season, because I don't know, maybe some of you are new fans and you were not following F1 last year, but in order to understand how this new regulation and this new season is going to be different and kind of restack the cars, it's going to be different a little bit. So last year was the last season of the previous regulations. So the regulations when it comes to the engine started in 2014, so over 10 years ago, where we had this introduction of the MGUH and the MGUK, which means that a little bit of power was coming from electric source and the rest was a V6 engine. And throughout this engine formula, we had a couple of new regulations when it comes to aero department. So last new aero regulations was in 2022. The promise back then was to put easier to follow cars, because of course dirty air has always been a difficult thing for Formula One. Dirty air means that when you're following the car in front of you, the turbulent air from its aero makes it harder to follow, because the air around the nose of your car and the air that your cars go through when you're following someone has been disturbed, so it's not as thick as fresh and clean air. Okay, so you're sliding more, it's harder to keep momentum and speed. So the idea in 2022 was hey, let's revamp completely the aero departments of our cars, of our F1 cars, and we're going to have a great, very close battle type of Formula One formula. Okay, cool. That worked for 6 months, maybe something like that, I don't know. But the first few races in 2022 were kind of like that. It was true. I remember this amazing battle, I think it was in Bahrain, between Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc, and that was amazing. They were super fun. But then the problem was porpoising. The cars were bouncing on track because of the aero, and once they figured out how to stop the porpoising, basically they kind of went around the idea that the cars were supposed to have cleaner air and disperse the air on top of it instead of behind them, and it didn't work out. And last two seasons, 24 and 25, were the worst when it comes to wheel-to-wheel action. I think it was not at all what we were expecting, and the dirty air was absolutely shit. Clean air was king, and every time someone was just running off in the distance, they were winning the race. And that's what happened in 23, 24 with Max Verstappen. And then McLaren got the best freaking car of the grid. And Norris and Piastri kind of went off like that. And even in 2025, when we had two amazing drivers in the best car on the grid, it still wasn't the battle that we were expecting between the two teammates because of stupid papaya rules. And then, of course, it was interesting again because Max Verstappen got into the mix because his car got some upgrades, and then the Red Bull was able to kind of follow the McLarens, and you don't need to give Max Verstappen more than that. I mean, as long as he's got a decent car, he's going to push forward, he's not going to make mistakes, and he's going to be able to challenge. And that's what he did. Basically, last year, we saw Max Verstappen this freaking close to winning a fifth world title. But it didn't happen like that, and Norris in the end won, despite Oscar being the most impressive for like 2/3 of the season. But his last, I don't know how many races, like 8 or 9 races, were not as good. I mean, got like a big dump around Baku, and then just lost all his advance and all his gains in the standings, and Norris passed him, and then Max Verstappen passed him, and so yeah, in the end he finished third in the championship, when to me, I mean, I know it's like literally a tale of not two halves but like 2/3 and 1/3, but I still think that Oscar is probably the one that deserved the most. And if not for that stupid few races after Baku where he lost his confidence, he might have challenged to the end, you know. And this year I feel like Oscar is going to be definitely a bit more prepared, I would say, especially for the later races in the season. But it's tough to say because we don't know exactly. People have been saying that Mercedes has the best car this year, is going to have the best car at least at the start of the season. They have the best engine because of that loophole that allows them to extract a little bit more from the engine to get more horsepower. And so the rumors, and it seems to be, I mean, everyone is talking about it. It's not like it's completely out there theory. It's apparently everyone's saying, okay, Mercedes got the best engine, they got reliability already, given how many laps they were able to do without incidents at the shakedown. So yeah, people say Mercedes is going to be the big favorite, and of course with them, one man, George Russell, being the favorite for this season. But let's not forget one thing: McLaren does have Mercedes powertrains as well, so that means that the advantage that the Mercedes team has, McLaren will have them too, and two other teams on the grid will have this advantage, being Williams and Alpine. I'm not forgetting anyone, am I? No, that's it. So, that's still not enough to say much, but there might be a slight edge for those Mercedes powered cars. So we'll see how it goes, but basically I think that this advantage is real. I don't know how much of it is significant. I mean, I'm sure that Mercedes and McLaren are going to do great when it comes to engines. That's probably a given. They're going to be the teams to beat. But of course, the rumors are that Ferrari is also very, very good, and people are a little bit more doubtful on the new Red Bull powertrains. So for those who don't know, basically Red Bull is now powered by Ford, but they're making their own engine, with Ford being the people helping them build the engine when it was Honda before. And so we're not sure about this engine. Basically, people, and when I say people, I mean like journalists that cover F1 for a living, so they probably have pretty decent idea. They say that they might be like the fourth, fifth, even best team if you count all those Ferrari, all those Mercedes powered teams, and also Ferrari in the mix, which rumor says they're good because they had like a good shakedown and they were very happy. You could see that Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton were very, very smiley face throughout the shakedown week. So there's that, you know. But I will say something though. Do not ever take Max Verstappen out of the equation, because if there's the slightest chance, the slimmest, the slithering of chance, is going to get it. Is going to go for it and is going to be in the mix. So my idea is that maybe the car won't be the most powerful, okay? Fine. They won't have the best straight line speed. They won't have the best, you know, engine overall and so on. But you have to remember that if the engine was doing everything, there wouldn't be a interest in watching F1. The thing is that the aero and chassis are obviously very important in the mix. And the driver, obviously. The drivers are why we're watching F1, you know, like they're the ones that appeal to people because they're the personalities and the skills behind the wheel, and that's what people want to see. And Max Verstappen is, and I'm sorry, but there's no denying that, he's the best driver in this generation. Probably one of the best drivers ever. I mean, definitely up there with the Ayrton Senna and Schumacher of history, you know. So obviously it would be completely insane to rule him out. And even with a car that's he won the 2021, I mean, no, the car in 2021 wasn't but it was not as good as the Mercedes. Mercedes had the best car throughout 2014 to 2021, period. I mean, this era with the formula of the engine plus the aero that they had at the time, they were the best. That's it. And still, Max Verstappen managed to challenge and to win his first world title in 2021. And I know that it's still controversial, but the fact is that he was there and he won. So I would not rule him out. As for Ferrari, every year Charles Leclerc is a contender. Every year you cannot rule out Charles Leclerc, because if, God forbid, the Ferrari is good, is going to be in the mix as well, because he's an amazing driver. He's one of the best qualifiers, I think, in the calendar, I mean in the grid. And Lewis Hamilton is a 7-time world champion, so obviously they could be a threat as well. And then there are the other upcoming teams, you know, in the midfield, but they're starting to knock at the top 4 basically. You got your Williams, which has one of the best lineups of drivers with Carlos Sainz Jr. and Alex Albon. You've got Aston Martin. People say that they're going to be very, very good with Adrian Newey making the aero, and at the shakedown we didn't see much of the car, but it was quite extreme. It was quite bam in your face, you know what I mean? And that's going to be interesting. And they got Fernando Alonso. I mean, my dude is like 23, 24, I don't even 20, no, not 20, 43, 44. And he actually drives like he's 23 or 24. That's the thing about Fernando Alonso, that's insane. He's way past his 40s and just driving like a rookie. That was the meme last year, that he was a rookie, right? So yeah, the man is a 2-time world champion. He could have been a 4-time world champion if he had made the right decisions in switching teams, because he really got unlucky once he left Renault. But yeah, he is definitely one of the best talents as well. in the sports, so you cannot rule him out either. Maybe not for the win in the end, unless like imagine Adrian Newey made a miracle and made the best car, aero speaking, and Honda is actually quite good. They might be. You never know. I mean, 2029, Jenson Button and Brown GP, they were outsiders, that they had the best car, and that was it. But yeah, Aston Martin, Williams, Haas apparently is going to be good, and if the Ferrari engine is good, you might never know. And then there's Alpine, who switched to a Mercedes powertrain, so that means that the Viry-Châtillon engine is gone because it was shit for quite some time now. And now it's just the Enstone facilities that make the chassis and a powertrain from Mercedes, which is rumored to be the best. So they're not going to be last, that's for sure. I mean, I would be very, very surprised if Alpine ended up last this year, obviously. So no, I think they're going to be in the mix, in the midfield. But the question is going to be where, and that's what's very, very interesting in doing those predictions, because I've seen a couple of people, on YouTube doing their predictions, and basically, some of them I agree, some of them I don't agree at all, and that's the good thing. Like, nobody knows. Nobody has seen much Formula One running, just a few snippets from the shakedown, and that was it. So it's going to be very interesting, and obviously at the end of the year we're going to all look back on our predictions and be like, oh my god, how wrong were we, right? Because some of those teams are going to be good and some of those teams are not going to be good enough. And that's the beauty of Formula One. And like, your car could be like, if it went back in time and competed against last year's reg, they could be the best one car, like, take, I don't know, I want to say the Williams from 2025, you put them in 2022, they win the championship, and Carlos Sainz or Alex Albon is world champion. You know what I mean? Because it's not enough to be good. You have to be better than the others, and that's always the difficulty, because you might progress, you might make the car evolve, but if the others progress faster, evolve better, they're going to be ahead of you, and you end up last, and there has to be a last person, a last team and a last driver in the championships. So that's going to be interesting, definitely. So, okay, now that we've kind of recapped the 2025 season-ish, and that we talked about all the stakes and things and unknown of this season, shall we get into the standings, right? Okay, so what I'll be doing is that I'll be looking at the drivers starting from 22nd, and then once I've announced 2 drivers, I'm going to say the team. So we'll go 2 drivers, 1 team, 2 drivers, 1 team. And obviously, when I say sometimes a team is going to be spoiling what I think of a driver that might not have been named, because I'm not going to be like all 2 drivers of the same team grouped together, But yeah, basically that's how we're going to be doing it. And the fun thing is that I tried to record that same podcast a couple of weeks ago, like, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks ago. And obviously it was before the shakedown, and I made a completely different prediction, and it has changed. So maybe just for fun, at the end, we will go back to look at the prediction that I made 3 weeks ago. So that could be fun, right? So we're going to be starting with the drivers. At 22, I got Valtteri Bottas. Okay, we all love Valtteri. Valtteri is so much fun. He is Finnish, but he's Australian by adoption, and he's got the mullet and the mustache, and he's such a freaking awesome personality in this sport. And I'm so glad to see him back in the grid, because he obviously wasn't there last season, but he got picked up by Cadillac, and I'm very, very excited to see him. The problem, though, and kind of spoiler for the team standings, obviously, I don't think Cadillac is going to be that good. I don't think they're going to be fighting for points anytime soon. I think they'll be at the back because they're still new and they have Ferrari powertrains, but if the chassis and the aero is still like A-spec, it comes back to what I was saying a few minutes ago about not being terrible, but if you're good but not as good as the others, you're dead last, and that's it. And so I think that's how it's going to be going. As for the two Cadillac drivers, why Valtteri last? I think my reasoning comes from 2024, I think it was, when he was driving with Zhou Guanyu in Alfa Romeo, and he didn't manage to get a single point. I mean, that car this year was absolutely terrible, and I don't blame him for not getting a point because he had a shit car. But the fact is that Zhou Guanyu managed to get a few points, like 2 I think, and that was it. But Bottas was last, and if he's unlucky, if he doesn't have like a feel for qualifying like it happened a few times for him, he's not going to be fighting for points anytime soon this season, and I don't see him getting any, or maybe like 1 or 2 at least, but most that he probably will get all season. So that's it. 22nd, Valtteri Bottas for Cadillac. 21st is going to be Sergio Perez, and that's our second Cadillac driver. Same reasoning basically. I still think that Sergio Perez is a much better driver than people gave him shit for back in 2024 when he was driving for Red Bull, and 2023 as well when he was kind of underwhelming. He's a great driver. He literally felt the curse of the second Red Bull seat fighting against Max, because I remember in 2022 he was actually challenging Max and he was in the mix at the start of the regulation, but then as time went on he literally kind of dropped both in confidence and also in the style of handling of the car. You know, the car went more Max's way, who likes to have a oversteery kind of car, a car that kind of snaps, and Sergio Perez is a more understeer type of driver, so he likes when cars are more stable, and obviously it was not at all the type of handling that the Red Bull was known for in the last regulation. So it was just a poor recipe for disaster for Sergio in Red Bull those past couple of years, but I still think he's an amazing driver, and I do think that he's going to have the edge over Valtteri. I still think that he's going to be better in qualifying. He's going to be maybe fighting for a couple of points here and there. You know, it only takes like a kind of chaotic race where a bunch of people crash and you just try to keep your head in and avoid trouble, and there you are, you're 12th, and maybe you can just push it a little and catch the 1 or 2 guys in front and you got a point, you know. So yeah, I still think that Perez is going to be edging Valtteri by a few points, putting him 21st in the driver standings, which obviously for you follow means that our 11th spot in the team standings is going to be Cadillac. Like I said, Cadillac is brand new to the sport. They have their own they don't have their own engine. They are a customer of Ferrari, and Ferrari is rumored to have a good engine, but the team is very, very new. People come from different teams, and of course there are going to be talented people, but when you put a bunch of talented people together, it takes some time for the mayonnaise to take, you know. So yeah, it's going to be a difficult first season, I think, for Cadillac, and I would not be surprised at all if they are dead last with just a couple of points on the board. Next, with the driver standings at 20th, I've got Franco Colapinto. And that might surprise a few of you. I mean, people say, oh yeah, Alpine are going to be quite good this year, and I'm pretty sure that a bunch of you actually think that Colapinto is not as bad as he was last year, because last year he just didn't get the preseason testing, and he just got in there in the middle of the season and he had the worst car on the grid, so obviously it's not going to be shiny. And I agree with that. I totally agree with that, and I'm not saying that 20th means that he's going to have a terrible season, not scoring any point. I do feel like he's going to be there from time to time, but I don't think he's going to be nowhere near Pierre Gasly. That's the thing. I think that Pierre Gasly is going to wipe the floor with his fucking ass. I think that most of the Alpine points are going to come from Pierre Gasly, and Franco is going to be struggling. I still imagine him fighting around P15, most of the season, sometimes 12, sometimes 13, sometimes down at bottom because he will have like a spin or something. I still don't see him as a amazing talent. He's a decent driver for sure. He's better with that what some people have told him to be last year, because he just had the worst car ever last year, and it's not easy to impress with a terrible car. But I still don't think he's going to be like the next best thing in Formula 1 or whatever. So yeah, for me it's going to be 20th for Franco Colapinto. In 19th, I've got Arvid Lindblad, and it's the first rookie, the only rookie this season. I'm pretty sure that he's a great pilot. He might surprise a few people, maybe. Maybe it will surprise me, but still, I think that the spot of the Racing Bulls is not going to be incredible this year. The rumor about the powertrains, the Ford powertrains and Red Bull, is that it's not going to be amazing, not competing with the likes of Mercedes and Ferrari. So I still think it's going to be tough for Racing Bulls to perform at the level that they might have performed last year with Isaac Ajar and Liam Lawson. So yeah, for me, Arvid is going to have a decent season. He's going to have a few point finisher. He's going to get a lot of experience. Hopefully he's going to keep his nose clean and not have too many crashes and stuff like that, because it's a rookie season. So probably have a few, but hopefully not too many for him, that he got confidence building and experience coming his way, and then he'll be just fine, right? So with that, I'm actually going to put in 10th in the team standings Racing Points. Yeah, like I said, not to be harsh towards them, but I don't think they're going to be very amazing this year. I don't see the pair to be like incredibly talented. Liam Lawson is a good kid. Arvid is probably a great racing driver, but it's his rookie season. So I don't see Racing Bulls with that engine maybe deficit. We'll see. Maybe not. I don't know. It's still too early to say. But in my prediction, yeah, I don't see Racing Bulls being that good, right? So that's why I put them 10th. Then in drivers at 18, I've got Lance Stroll. Look, the guy is a meme. He just sometimes shows up with a little bit of motivation. Most of the time he doesn't show up with motivation. He does show up, and that's the best that you can say about Lance Stroll, is that most of the time he's there, but just because he's physically there won't mean that he's going to be giving his best. And that's the frustrating thing, is that he's not going to go away. Any other driver would have gone a while ago, but of course Daddy is owning the team, and even though Daddy is probably in trouble with all those files going on at the time, still Lance is going to be there. He's going to be doing his driving. He's going to finish like qualify 18th or 19th, and he's going to be like, yeah, fuck this shit. I'm not doing anything, and he's going to punch people in the ass. And he's going to be, what is that idiot doing? That's Lance Stroll for you guys. So yeah, I don't see much higher, much more higher than freaking 18th, to be honest. Okay, so now we're going to talk about P17, and in P17 I've got Gabriele Bortoleto. So Audi, are they going to be good? That's the main question. So last year was Kick Sauber, and even though they did great to improve from the year before, from 2024, they were still one of the teams at the back, no questions asked. And Gabriel shown a lot of promise. I think that for a rookie, he had a good season at times, but then he had that freaking annoying. But I mean, that's the game, right? That's the thing about rookies. They are going to maybe have great races, but still sometimes they're doing like insane shit, and like the things that he did in Brazil at his own race with all the pressure and everything. So I think it's going to be decent this year, but Audi being new in the sport, a new engine supplier, picking up from Sauber, it's difficult to imagine them being that good, right? So I think it's going to be kind of tough to put Gabriele Bortoleto higher when it comes to the driver standings. I mean, P17 is reasonable, right? But yeah, I'm struggling to see him going up. Which means, okay, that now that we talked about two more drivers, we're going to go to our P9 in the team standings, right? And in P9, we got Audi, just for the reason that I was talking about going up. Which means, okay, that now that we talked about two more drivers, we're going to go to our P9 in the team standings, right? And in P9, we got Audi, just for the reason that I was talking about. They've got a great team principle, honestly, but I don't know how much they can do to be good and to perform this year with all the other teams having more experience, more raw talent, I would say, because I'm not shitting on Audi at all. I mean, they have two great drivers, a rookie, and not a rookie, but a sophomore, and a very experienced drivers, of course, with Nico Hülkenberg, and they've got the Sauber facilities and stuff that gives them a little bit of experience, but still, it's new management, it's the Audi brand and stuff like that. I still think that they're going to take a few years to perform, and so yeah, I don't see them going higher than 9 in the standings. So that's where I put them. Okay, now we move to 16th on the drivers' standings. And we talked about his team a lot already. That's going to be Liam Lawson. Okay, so basically I think that Liam is a good driver. He's a decent driver. He's aggressive, he's got that ruthless type of attitude, you know, like, I'm not here to make friends, he says, like, with his New Zealander accent and stuff like that. And that's good, because Racing Bull is probably the best team for that kind of attitude, I would say, like the Red Bull environment in general. And that's insane to think of that. It's the first freaking time in his entire career, and I feel like he's been around for years now. When was his first year? Like 2023? His first race, right? I'm not mistaken, am I? So yeah, he's been there for years, and still it's going to be his first time having a full freaking season at the same team. Can you imagine that? Because he got there in 2023 to replace Daniel Ricciardo. Was it? Right. And then, of course, he replaced Daniel Ricciardo again in 2024, and then he went to Red Bull next to Max Verstappen in 2025. We all remember how that ended. Not well for him. Just finished dead last after 2 races, and so he was like punted back into Racing Bulls with Tsunoda in. And so yeah, it's going to be the first time that he has a decent season, stability and stuff like that at the same team, and I think it's going to do great for him. So that's why I'm putting him 16. I think that his team is going to be struggling with all the rumors about the Red Bull powertrains, but I still think he's going to be decent, but not to the extent of, oh my god, he's going to get like P4 or stuff like that, like Isaac did last year. So yeah, for me, it's going to be decent, but not incredible. So P16 will be Liam Lawson. Alright. Next, in P15, we also talked about his team already, and that's going to be Nico Hülkenberg. Alright, Nico, the German ancient driver, finally got his podium last year. Can you imagine? It was a meme for so long that Nico never had a podium in F1, and he got one. And I'm super happy for this guy because he deserves it. I mean, I remember one Drive to Survive episode focusing on him, and he was like, yeah, you know, kids, it's tough being a F1 driver and get a podium. And you could see how much it was literally just eating him up to not be a podium finisher. And now he is. He's got this freaking Lego trophy, but he's got this podium. That's, can never take that away from him. And this year I think he's going to be outperforming Gabriel because he's got more experience. He's going to have these couple of races where he qualifies amazingly because he's a great qualifier. And yeah, like last year, I still believe that he can achieve like a P7, P6, maybe even here and there. So I think he's going to have a decent season, and I put him at P15. Alright, let me check. Alright, next we're going to go to the teams, and we're going to talk about P8 in the team standings. A team that we mentioned a driver of, that's Alpine. Alpine? P8? They got a Mercedes engine, Wolfie. What are you talking about? I know, guys. I know, but I'm still not 100% sure that the 2025 kind of disaster train is completely over, to be honest. I still think that they're going to be way better than last year, definitely. That's certain. But I still don't put them above some other teams, you know. And I know that this rumor about the Mercedes engine is like, oh yeah, my god, we are going to have the best engine, blah blah blah. Yeah, that's not enough. Like I said, it takes a lot of things to have a good car in Formula One. A good engine is one thing, for sure. A good driver is one thing, that's absolutely certain, but that's not it. There's the chassis, there's the aero, there's the fuel, there's the strategy, there's the management. There's so many things that could go wrong, to be honest. And okay, they got a decent driver, right? They got Pierre Gasly. He's a race winner. He's a good French kid from Normandy. Fine, okay, right? But is it going to be enough to go back to like P5 or P6 in the team standings with the level of the other teams around? Not sure, you know. Like, I don't see them outperforming any of the other Mercedes teams, obviously. I mean, how could they be outperforming both McLaren and Williams? I don't see that happening because I still think that Williams and McLaren have better management and better chassis and aero tech guys. And then there's all the other teams around that we talked about, like Aston Martin, As, Ferrari, obviously, Red Bull. So how could you imagine that Alpine, with the advantage of their engine, would be above a Red Bull or a Ferrari or a Williams. I'm sorry, I don't see it. So yeah, for me it's going to be P8. And speaking of, the next one in the driver standings at P14 is going to be Pierre Gasly. Absolutely, that's our French dude right there. I mean, it's not the only one obviously on the grid, but I don't know. I mean, I remember when I started watching F1 again, I was like, oh my god, there's a French guy. There's Pierre Gasly. Okay, I like him. He's fun. He drives for Red Bull. Well, that did work too well for him, but still. And I was so used to terrible French drivers. I mean, obviously, Alain Prost was one of the best drivers on the grid at the time, but the thing is that I was too young when Prost was driving. I mean, I wasn't too young, but I was young, so I didn't know as much. And then after that, all the other French drivers like Alesi, Panis, they were not the best. But anyway, I digress. So yeah, Pierre Gasly is a great driver. Definitely. He's got great personality, he's a good qualifier. He really takes the most out of the car that he has. That's definitely a truth. Is it going to be enough? Like I said about Alpine right before, not sure. Flavio Briatore being handling Alpine, is it going to be enough? Once again, not sure. So yeah, to me, Pierre Gasly is going to be in P14. All right, let me check one thing. Okay, now we're going to be talking about P13. And guess what? We got another Frenchie! Yeah, Esti Besti is in P13 in my driver standings predictions. Yeah, the other French guy, Esteban Ocon, he's a great driver too. I don't like him. I don't like his attitude behind the wheel. I mean, when you see him in interviews and stuff like that, he's so nice. He's super, wholesome and stuff like that. But when he's driving, he's got this attitude that I don't know. I don't like him. What can I say? I'm sorry. But I still think he's going to be outperforming Pierre, which for him probably would be a little victory, after the little skirmish that they had when they were driving for Alpine, both of them. But yeah, I'm going to see that the Haas F1 team is going to be better than the Alpine with the Ferrari powertrain. And so yeah, I do imagine that Esteban is going to be slightly, I'm not talking about like 50 points or anything, I'm just thinking that over the season is going to get few more points than Pierre, and that's going to put him above in the standings at P13. All right, so we're going to talk about the next team in the standings in P7. Who's it gonna be? For me, P7 in the team's standings is going to be Aston Martin. I know, shocking. That low? Really, WOLF1E? I don't know, once again, that might be controversial, I don't know. We'll see once the season starts actually, how controversial it is or isn't. But yeah, for me, Aston is in a situation that is kind of weird because I don't think it ever happened to have a situation like that where they have Adrian Newey, which is a wizard when it comes to aero development of cars, and they got a new engine, okay, and they got two drivers, one being one of the best and one being one of the worst. How do you freaking predict anything about that team? I mean, how is it even possible? No, seriously, how is it possible? Because in my mind, like I said, I talked about Lance Stroll back in P18, so I'm not thinking that Lance Stroll is going to contribute a lot, point-wise. But then you got Fernando, who's an amazing driver, is a two-time world champion, and he's still got the fire, and he's going to be driving a car designed by Adrian Newey that he probably dreamed of his whole career, because when you were driving Formula Ones in the 2000, in the 90s, 2000, 2010, the best cars were designed by Adrian Newey, and so all the drivers probably dreamt like, oh my god, if I had a car designed by Newey, wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that make me a fucking world champion, right? Probably every driver thought that, right? and a few got it, like obviously Vettel and Verstappen and Mika Hakkinen, I think, you know. So yeah, these guys got the World Driver Championship thanks to Adrian. Not entirely, obviously. I mean, they were quite talented guys too, but you know what I mean. And Fernando is going to be thinking that I've got the freaking Adrian Newey designing the car. I'm going to be having the best aero car on the grid, probably. And so that's definitely going to be like right there when he's thinking about this season, right? But then again, you've got a very weird kind of team, you know, like I said, kind of toxic attitude with Lawrence Stroll and Lance, his son, in there, and obviously so much money that they could freaking buy the world or something. I don't know, but yeah, they have great means when it comes to money, when it comes to manpower as well. Newey, Alonso, is that enough though? What about Honda? What about their powertrain supplier, Honda? I love Honda. I used to have a Honda car. They're absolutely amazing. And they did great when they were working with Red Bull. Are they going to be that good? Coming back to F1 after a few years? I don't know. I have no idea. And they're the only team powered by that engine. So they don't have like the data of another engine supplier that can look at different teams, you know. At the shakedown, they only had a few laps made by Alonso and Lance on track on Thursday and Friday, so that's not a lot. So I don't know how good the Honda powertrain is going to be. So that's a lot of talking about freaking Aston Martin. But what I mean by that is literally that I don't think that they're going to be that great when it comes to powertrain. I don't think that's going to be enough to have Newey and his extreme style of car development. And so yeah, I'm going to put them was it 7? Yeah, that's right, P7 in the team standings. Okay, moving on, because we are getting late on that freaking podcast. We have P12. Well, we were just talking about his team. I think that Fernando Alonso is going to be P12. That's definitely not a jab at him. I think he's going to be scoring lots of points, so much more than Lance Stroll. Last year was an anomaly, honestly. He got so unlucky at the start of the season and didn't score for so many times. But this year is probably going to be better. He's going to be there. He's going to be in the mix. He's freaking Fernando Alonso. He's got an Adrian Newey car. I think he's going to be doing okay, but not as good as some other teams. That's my thinking behind that. And to be honest, putting him like around the middle of the standings is probably where I see Alonso stacking, not in terms of talent obviously, but in terms of combination of the car and the driver and everything around, right? I think that if it was not Fernando Alonso next to Lance Stroll, Aston Martin would be at the bottom, because I don't think another driver than Fernando would be able to bring a new ish engine supplier with a unsure kind of developed car to the levels that Fernando is going to be able to bring it. So yeah, I see Fernando at P12 in the standings. P11 now. We're moving to the first part of the standings. I got Alex Albon. I think that Alex Albon is going to be once again performing well, once again doing great things with his Williams. We didn't talk about Williams at all, I think, today yet, but I think he's going to be capitalizing with the kind of success of last year. And last year it was very weird, because the first half of the season he was outperforming Carlos Sainz so much better, and then the kind of power dynamic reversed, and Carlos Sainz was the better driver of the two at the second half of the season. And this year, I don't know how it's going to pan out, obviously, but I still think that he's going to be outperformed by his teammates because Carlos Sainz is probably overall a better driver than Alex Albon, and I freaking love Alex Albon. He's super sweet, he's very nice, he's a good driver, he's got very good intelligence when it comes to driving. But yeah, I think that Carlos Sainz is better than him, right? So that puts him at P11. And after that we go to the team standings, and we're going to talk about who's P6 in the team standings. And literally we were talking about them. Williams, I think, is going to be P6. That might be a bit disappointing for some of you. I mean, some of you might think that they're going to be like 5th or maybe even higher this year. Maybe you're right, maybe I'm wrong, but in my book I still think that they're going to be I mean, the thing is that they were not taking part in the shakedown last week, I mean, and generally speaking they look like they're struggling. They were struggling to pass the crash tests, they were struggling to go to the weight limit, and James Vowles is a great team principal, no doubt about it. He's got an amazing management. He's, I think, one of the best team principals on the grid. But I think that some of the people that are working at Williams are kind of, you know, the people that made Williams last in the championship in 2020, I think. Celeste. My cat is just meowing in the back. So I think that even though it probably helped people improve at their job, some people at Williams are not like the killers that they were in the 2000s, you know, when Montoya was driving for them and stuff like that. And I think that it's kind of weighing them down a little bit, and they're struggling from time to time. And this new era of Formula One cars being completely new, they're going to have to relearn a few things, I think. And I'm not saying that they're going to be terrible, obviously. I mean, I'm putting them P6 in the 11 team standings, which probably is great for them. I mean, midfield, but I know they are just aiming higher. So yeah, come Celeste, come. Oh, I want to say hi. Oh, you're not happy? Don't want to say hi? Yeah, I know. So yeah, I don't think that they're going to be as good as they would like to be. Not yet, at least. I'm still kind of hopeful and confident for next year. I think that next year they might be great. They might like get a lot of experience this year and be much better next year, I think. But this year, yeah, I think they're going to be outperformed by one team. And that's, I think, who we're talking about next. Wait. Okay. Oh, man. So I was talking about Williams P6, and now we're going to go to P10 in the driver's standings, and that's my little wild card, I think. Because in P10 I've got Ollie Berman. And yeah, that's quite high, but this rookie really impressed us, I think, last year, and we're not for another rookie, obviously. He would have been the rookie of the year last year. I think he did a great job at performing Esteban Ocon, and since we talked about Esteban a few places back, once again I'm thinking that he's going to have the edge over Esteban in the Haas. But the thing to take from that is that I think Haas is going to be an amazing car this year. I don't know. I got a great vibe from Haas. I think they got the best livery, one of the best liveries, if not the best livery so far that we've seen. And yeah, I mean, that kid's got freaking talent, man. He was doing amazing when he did that stand-in for Carlos at Ferrari those years back. He's been performing great last year. Got that P4. always in the top 10, qualifying incredibly well. That was very, very impressive how he qualified last year. And so yeah, I'm just biting in the hype for that kid, you know. Like Ollie Berman is going to be definitely a championship contender at some point. Maybe not this year, but in a few years in the future, if he gets to go at Ferrari, maybe after Lewis, I don't know. But yeah, I'm seeing good things for that kid in the future, and to me, Ollie Berman is going to be definitely in the mix for the upper part of the midfield, right? So that'd be P10 for him. Next we go to P9, I believe, and at P9 I've got Carlos Sainz Jr. Okay, so we talked about Williams. I said that I was expecting things, but I still think that they're going to be outperformed by Haas, and I'm realizing now that it doesn't make much sense that I put them where I put them. If I'm putting Carlos and Alex above Ollie and Esteban, right? All right, yeah, okay. Well, we'll see. But yeah, basically, I still think that Carlos is going to be doing great. Yeah, actually, that's right. Jesus, I fumbled again. It should be. I mean, if I'm putting these standings, do I believe that Ollie Berman could be better than Carlos Sainz? That's a good question, because basically either I switch Ollie Berman P9 and Carlos in P10, or I switch Haas and Williams in P5 and 6. You know what? I'm going to actually do something a little wild, but I'm going to put Ollie Berman in P9. I mean, I was standing by what I was saying a few moments back. I still think that this kid is something special, and I think he's going to be outperforming both Williams drivers. And with Esteban being a bit further back, still that doesn't make a lot of sense. That still doesn't make a lot of sense if Esteban is back in P13 to have Haas above both Williams. But anyway, we'll see. I mean, that's just the beauty of prediction. You might be completely wrong, you might be right, but with the wrong reasons. Anyway, I'm going to go for that. I'm going to go for P10 Carlos Sainz, because he's going to be performing better than Alex. I think this year is going to be great. He's going to really have a good season, I think. Much better than last year's. But like I said about Ollie, I think Ollie is going to be very, very special this year, and I think Haas is going to be a great car, and that's why I'm putting Ollie above Carlos in the standings. So just to recap, because I know it was a little bit confusing, that part, I'm putting Carlos Sainz in P10 and Ollie Berman in P9, okay? And then we move to the next team on our team standings, which, as I said, is going to be Haas. I'm sorry, Haas P5. Doesn't make much sense with my driver standings. I understand that, because I don't think that Ollie Berman is going to be outperforming so damn much those two Williams cars that he might get more points for the team by himself compared to the two Williams drivers. But I don't know, I've got a feeling maybe that's my standings for Esteban that are not quite on point with what I believe, because I do believe that Haas is going to be having a good year this year and performing extremely well. Like I said, Ferrari engine, great livery. I know a livery doesn't make anything, but great talents. Yeah, I think Haas is going to be quite special this year. And next we move to P8 in the driver's standings. Okay, now this is getting interesting, because we're getting into the top of the market, you know. And we got basically the worst, I want to say, driver of the top 4 teams. And I'm sorry, but it's going to be Lewis Hamilton. I don't buy the hype about this year's Ferrari and regulation being completely changing the way that Lewis performed at Ferrari, basically. I still think that Lewis is an amazing driver, obviously. I still think that he's not going to be retiring at the end of the year, even if he's just not performing at the level that he would like to be performing. But I don't see him improving that much better compared to last year. I mean, he's not going to be that freaking Ricardo Adami as his race engineer, and that can only mean that the communication will be a little bit better, at least. To what extent, I don't know, but it cannot be worse anyway. I mean, probably could, but hopefully it's not. But yeah, it's a good thing that he's not with Ricardo anymore, because Ricardo was doing jack shit for the poor dude last year when it comes to race engineering. And yeah, I still think that Lewis is going to be struggling in qualifying. It all depends on how different the cars drive, you know. Like, I know that the previous formula was not for him, generally speaking. He hated that type of cars from 2022 to 25, and so that's why he struggled so much over these years. But is it going to be enough, that change of formula, to be performing at Ferrari? Is Ferrari going to be the best car this year compared to the Mercedes? That's a tough ask, honestly. That's quite difficult to put, and I'm not sure it's going to be that way. All right. So yeah, I'm sorry, but I think that Lewis Hamilton is going to be at the bottom of the big 4 teams, basically. At P7 now, we have Isaac Hadjar, last French guy on the grid, and probably the one I'm the most excited about in quite some time, honestly. I freaking loved his season last year. He was amazing. That podium in Zandvoort was absolutely incredible, and it was so wholesome to watch him from that error at the formation lap in Australia a year ago to where he ended up the season. And generally speaking, I just really believe that this kid is one of the next best thing in Formula One. He's got a very special talent. Remember that time when he avoided the car that was stopped in the Monaco tunnel? So yeah, he's got great reaction time, he's got great driving skills, he's got raw energy, he's so perfectionist, and that's going to be a very good F1 driver. And now he's driving one of the top cars. I mean, hopefully it's going to be one of the top cars, realizing that this was upside down all this time, but it's okay. So yeah, this is really one of the best drivers out there, I think, at the moment, one of the most exciting and promising talents. And I don't think it's going to be as terrible as the previous, I don't know how many now, like 4 Red Bull second drivers. Is definitely going to be good, better than the other ones. He's got a new regulation, which means that the bias for Max Verstappen is not the same. Plus, he's also the type of drivers that kind of similar to Max. He's got that aggressive, pointy head type of driving like Max. So that might be something good for him. And also, all the toxic people at Red Bull are gone. I mean, Horner is gone, Marco is gone. That's, to be honest, quite fair for him, you know. It's not going to have to do with some bullshit that the others were having to face day to day. So now we move to P4 in the team standings. And actually, I'm thinking that Red Bull is going to be P4. I know that's surprising, but I think it's not going to be enough to beat the other 3. I think it's going to be not enough to beat the other three, basically, because I do think that the other three teams are going to have a better engine, and that's it. That's the only reason behind that, because I still think that Isaac is going to be doing great, Max is going to be doing great, is going to outperform the engine probably much more than many people are anticipating, and is going to be there, is going to be in the mix, no questions asked. But is that going to be enough for Red Bull? Are the points tally going to be enough for the team to outperform the other three? Yeah, I still doubt it. So now we move to the next in the standings, which is P6, and that's going to be Kimi Antonelli. Kimi Antonelli is not a rookie anymore. He's one of the many sophomore on that 2026 grid, and he's shown some promise, but he's also shown some frailty, I want to say. Last year, it's difficult to judge, because obviously the kid is like 18, 19, I don't know, he's like very young still, and he's got one of those special talents too, but it's not enough in F1 to be a promising young driver. I mean, so many kids were promising young drivers, and in the end they didn't do anything in Formula 1, because this is the pinnacle of motorsport, and you have to be better than the best basically to perform in Formula 1. And is it going to be enough for him? Is he the talent that Toto Wolff is seeing him to be, the next Max Verstappen? Maybe he is, but I still feel like in the year to come it's going to be tough for him to beat the other guys, right? It's all about that. It's beating the guys in front of them. He's going to have the car for sure. He's going to have a great Mercedes engine, a great Mercedes car. Is he going to be good enough to beat the likes of Max Verstappen, Lando, Oscar, George, Charles? I don't know. I want to see it. I want to see if he's capable, and maybe I'm completely wrong and he's going to be like P2 or P3 or something in the standings at the end of the season, because the car will be that much better. That might very well be true, and he's going to just have the best car and take advantage of that without having to face the other guys that much if the car is that good. But until then, I can say for sure. So yeah, I'm going to put him at P6, and now at P5. Oh boy, that's depressing. That's very much depressing. Yeah, I'm going to go Charles Leclerc. And I don't want him to be P5. I want him to be P1. I want him to win the freaking World Championship, Drivers' Championship. I want Ferrari to be the best team around. I'm wearing red, and it's not only because it's my favorite color, it's also because obviously Ferrari. And yeah, I want him to be good. I want him to be good so bad. I feel for the kid, I was talking about Isaac being the last French dude on the calendar, and obviously Charles is not French, he's Monegasque. But that's still, like kind of similar, and he speaks French obviously, and yeah, you cannot help but feeling for the guy. And I really want him to win, but I don't see it happening, because I don't think, and that's the bullet point, I don't see the Ferrari being as good as people say. I think they're going to be good. I do. I think they're going to be a great contender when it comes to podium places. Better than last year. I don't think they're going to be that good. I don't think they're going to be outperforming the Mercedes and the one guy that we have still yet to talk about. And basically he's going to be on the same spot that last year. He's going to have a better car, sure. Is it going to be enough to beat them every time? I don't think so. So that's why I'm putting him at P5. and that's really, really gutting me because I really wish I'm wrong and that he's going to be world champion this year or next year, hopefully. I don't know, we'll see. And then we are going to be talking about P3 in the team standings, and that's exactly what we were doing because we are talking about Ferrari. Like I said, basically already had my argument about it. Ferrari is going to be a good team this year. They have a great engine. They have great chances to win races and to have podiums, and I'm sure that Lewis will have a podium this year. But that's not going to be enough when you compare to the other two. And that's why I think they are going to end up once again P3 in the team standings. Once again, were they P4 last year? I don't remember, but anyway. Next we move to P4 in the Drivers' Championship. And that's actually going to be our driver champion. That's probably why I had that lapsus. Lando Norris is our P4 when it comes to driver predictions. I know he's going to have the number 1 on the car. That's weird enough. LN1 is so fucking weird. I don't like it. I still don't like the fact that he won the championship last year. I mean, I'm not hating on the guy. I don't hate him. I don't mind him. I just think that he wasn't the best driver last year. And obviously I'm wrong because he was the best in the sense that he got the most points and he won the freaking title. But I don't know. I cannot freaking end myself thinking, oh yeah, he was the best driver last year. That's why he won. No, I can't. I just can't. I'm sorry. To me, he's not as good as Oscar. And obviously Oscar had his faults last year as well. But I still think that Oscar is going to be a better driver this year and that he's going to be outperforming Lando on this season, So that's going to be P4 for Lando Norris, the current champion of Formula 1. Then we move to P3 on the driver standings, and yeah, that one hurts kind of as well, but I think Max Verstappen is going to be P3. I would like him. I mean, I'm not super supporting Red Bull and Max as I used to back in 2021 because I'm more a Ferrari kind of guy these days, but I still want him to perform, you know. I still want him to show what a good driver he is because I know that's the best driver out there at the moment. But I don't think that the Red Bull is going to be good enough for that. And that's basically why I put Red Bull at P4 in the team standings. I think it's going to be good enough to get wins and podiums and stuff like that. I think that the guys in front are going to be better over a season because they will have a better engine and a better car. I just think it's going to happen that way, and so I'm sad to say that Max is not going to win his 5th. He's not even going to challenge to the last race like last year. I think it's going to be slightly just a miss, a couple of races short from the title, and is going to end up P3 in the driver standings. So now we move to our last 2 positions in the team standings, and actually what I'm going to do is that I'm going to announce who I think is going to win the team standings, and thus you'll know who's P2, okay? And then we'll talk about the drivers at the end. So for me, the team that's going to win the World Constructors Championship, it's going to be Mercedes. It has to be Mercedes P1 and McLaren P2. I don't see it that differently from all the others, podcasters and journalists and people talking about F1 on the internet. I still think that Mercedes is going to get it right this year. Basically, that's what I'm feeling. That's what everyone's saying, and it's not very original, I know, but I still think that they will get it right on the engine, because apparently they already are, and they'll get it right on the chassis and the aero as well. And then they have a great driver that might as well challenge. So that's my thinking behind that. I think just that Mercedes is going to be good. They're going to be the best team, and Toto Wolff is going to blow it again, and that's going to be insufferable. But that's how I think this season is going to be panning out, basically. And so yeah, that puts McLaren at P2. Even though I'm feeling that McLaren might even be worse than that. Okay, so remember at the start of the podcast I talked about how I might even tell you about my standings before that I made a few weeks ago, and if I remember correctly, let me check. Yeah, I had McLaren P3 in the standings of constructors, because I think that McLaren basically they made so many errors, strategic errors and management errors when it comes to the drivers last year, with all the papaya rules and stuff like that, and terrible pit stops and decision making and everything, that they might lose even more points this year while not having the best car, basically. But I don't think that the other teams are going to be as good to catch them, even if they are making these mistakes. So my thinking is that Mercedes is not going to be making too many mistakes. McLaren is going to be making a lot more mistakes, but they will still have the advantage of the car and the chassis and the engine compared to the Red Bulls and the Ferraris of this world. And so that's my thinking. McLaren could be third or fourth if they had whatever type of engine on par with the other ones, but I still think that this Mercedes powertrain is going to be good enough to give them the edge over the other ones, the Ferraris and Red Bulls and all the other Mercedes teams other than the actual Mercedes, So that's my thinking behind that. And now we're going to move to the driver standings. So we talked about Lando, we talked about Max. Once again, I'm going to give you who I think is going to be the world champion, driver championship. And we'll talk about P2 as well. Drum roll, please. George Russell. Yeah, same fucking boring answer, honestly. Just like for Mercedes being a constructors champion, I think George is going to have enough this year with the car, with the chassis, with everything, to claim his first title. I don't think it's going to be like he's going to be running off on his own like Max did in 2023. I don't think it's going to be like that. I think it's going to be a tight battle with 3 other drivers. I literally think that George, Oscar, Max and Lando are going to be fighting for the World Championship until at least a couple seasons to the end. But I still think that Mercedes will get the car well enough to outperform everyone else, and George is just in the best position. He's the senior driver, he's a great talent, great qualifier, good at will-to-wheel racing, even though there's that meme about him taking out people and stuff like that. Obviously he can do that a few times, but he's still a good racing driver overall, and if he's got the best car, just like Lando last year, that's going to be enough for him to win the World Drivers' Championship. So unfortunately that put Oscar Piastri P2 in the driver standings. I still think that Oscar is going to be outperforming Lando and Max this year. I think he's going to get his little revenge of being better than Max over the course of the season, because obviously last year he lost in the end P1 and P2 to both Lando and Max. But I think that this year is going to be good enough to challenge George for the win of the Drivers' Championship, but I don't think it's going to be enough compared to the Mercedes. If Oscar was driving a Mercedes next to George, he probably would win. I would say that Oscar is a better driver than George Russell. Might be a controversial opinion, I don't know, but I see Oscar being one of the best drivers on the grid at the moment. Probably on par with Charles and Max. But still, I don't think it's going to be enough for him to go get George. So yeah, that means that George is going to be our P1 in the driver's standings. So, with all that said, with 1 hour and a half of me talking about Formula One, let's just recap our driver and team standings. So, in P1 at the driver standings, we got George Russell, P2 Oscar Piastri, P3 Max Verstappen, P4 Lando Norris, P5 Charles Leclerc, P6 we got Kimi Antonelli, P7 Isaac Hadjar, P8 Lewis Hamilton, P9 Ollie Berman, P10 Carlos Sainz Jr., P11 Alex Albon, P12 Fernando Alonso, P13 Esteban Ocon, P14 Pierre Gasly, P15 Nico Hülkenberg, P16 Liam Lawson, P17 Gabriel Bortoleto, P18 Lance Stroll, P19 Arvid Lindblad, P20 Franco Colapinto, P21 Sergio Perez, and P22 and last Valtteri Bottas. That's our drivers standing. And for the teams, we got Mercedes P1, McLaren P2, Ferrari P3, Red Bull P4, Haas P5, Williams P6, Austin P7, Alpine P8, Audi P9, Racing Bulls P10, and finally last and 11th Cadillac. That will be my standings for today. I'm just going to go back and tell you about the prediction that I made, like I said, a couple of weeks ago. It's going to be fun because I obviously changed my mind quite a lot after the shakedown, I would say, and the most recent rumors, obviously. But when I did that a couple of weeks ago, I actually had Max Verstappen winning the World Drivers' Championship. How fun is that? But unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be possible with Red Bull car and powertrain compared to the Mercedes. I had George Russell second, Oscar third, so this basically in the same order that now. Charles fourth, Lando fifth, Kimi next sixth, Isaac seventh, Carlos Sainz eighth. Ooh, I put Carlos Sainz above Lewis Hamilton. That was before that rumor that Ferrari was actually going to be a great car. I was like, no, like Ferrari, that's it. So I put Lewis 9th, Fernando 10th, Alex Albon 11th, Ollie Berman 12th, still pretty hyped up about Ollie Berman, Lance Stroll 13th. Oh, I was buying into that Adrian Newey Aston Martin hype. Putting Lance on 13th, that's insane. 14th, Gabriel Bortoleto. 15th, Pierre Gasly, not believing in Alpine at the time. 16th, Liam Lawson. 17th, Esteban Ocon. 18th, Arvid Lindblad. 19th, Nico Hülkenberg. I was not hyping up Nico that much. 20th, Sergio Perez. 21st, Valtteri Bottas. And 22nd, Franco Colapinto. Ooh, that sounds terrible for Alpine and Franco, but yeah, I was not buying into the hype of Alpine and Mercedes powertrain and everything, but yeah, I changed my mind obviously. And for the team standings, I recorded this one on January the 1st. I did that on New Year's Day. Mercedes was my winner in the teams, then Red Bull. Like I said, I was believing that Red Bull would be much better than they're rumored to be. Third would be McLaren. Fourth, Ferrari. Yeah, not hyping up my Ferrari that much. Williams fifth, Aston sixth, Haas 7. Yeah, that's much different. Racing Bull 8. Ooh, wow. Actually much higher. Audi 9. Alpine 10th. And Cadillac last and 11th. So yeah, that were my standings literally almost at the end of last year's season, because it was on January 1st that I did that prediction, and I recorded that podcast that will never see the light of day because of technical issues that I had. But that's it. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I've been Wolfie. You've been watching the WOLF1E Podcast. And I thank you so much for being here and for watching and for chatting in the comments. I think about your predictions maybe of this year's season. And obviously, I cannot wait to look back